I would like to say that since Demon Slayer is coming by with a new season, the Hashira training arc, I do want to go back in time, back to the very beginning of Tanjiro and Nezuko's journey of basically getting Nezuko to turn back from demon to human after Muzan quite literally wiped out their entire family. But the reason I want to do this season 1 review is because I genuinely wish I talked about it while it came out. Granted, I had so many other things going on, but now's the time to talk about what started it all. We're going back to Demon Slayer, Season 1. For the story of Demon Slayer, I would like to point out that since Season 1 is, at least in Netflix, is pretty long, there is something I want to make note of. It's 3 phases, because overall, it's Tanjiro's journey to get Nezuko from demon to human, while also wanting to avenge his family by eliminating all demons, with the main one being Muzan. But let's go over these 3 phases of the story, since characters will be in the character section. The first part of the story would have to be the final selection arc, the basically becoming a true demon slayer within the core. But for that to have happened, we got the prologue section of Tanjiro and his family were living pretty well. They may have lost the father of the family, but Tanjiro was still doing his job of being the man of the house. However, one fateful night kind of completely destroyed the Kamado family, leaving Nezuko the only survivor of the attack and becoming a demon, and Tanjiro basically fighting for her to keep her human side, which Giyu, being one of the Hashiras showing up, plays a key factor in this. He tries to kill Nezuko so many times and even scolds Tanjiro because demons cannot be reasoned with. They're demons. They want to hurt humans. And yet, Nezuko showed that, yeah, she's a unique demon. She was able to fight the urge to just eat human flesh and just protect her brother from him, which led them to Giyu's master, Urokodaki, who trained Tanjiro as well as some of his deceased disciples, had helped them become strong enough to handle the whole selection process and survive that entire night as he defeated a hand demon that had been knocking out Urokodashi's students. And so with that basically sets off the first part of the journey of getting strong enough to truly handle the demons and having Nezuko and Tanjiro basically be on their way. But before we finish this section, I do want to add one thing. Tanjiro getting his black sword, and this fun swordsmith, this fun character who will always be the most funniest one next to Zenitsu. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The second half is a lot of things, but I'll just name the key points. Tanjiro and Nezuko meeting Lady Tamayo and her simp Yushiro, since, well, this leads Tanjiro to someone who can help cure Nezuko, especially someone who's broken free of Muzan's control, as well as have a fight break out and kind of showing Tanjiro's progression there. Tanjiro and Zenitsu meet. Zenitsu falls in love with Nezuko. Granted, though, any girl kind of gets his attention. We meet Inosuke and his shenanigans, as well as them facing a couple of demons. With the major thing is, Tanjiro has confronted Muzan. He knows what he looks like, which has gotten all of the Hashira's attention in the very end of the season when he meets them all. But we do have that importance that, yes, he has met the main guy himself. So a lot of this is basically showing the progress, them facing low to mid difficulty demons, to which they should not underestimate, since demons are still stronger than a normal human. But it's more to show the progress of them all, all of them kind of progressing before reaching what I consider the bigger antagonist of this season for Tanjiro's sake. Rui and his family, the spider demons family. Now, this is basically the big key-up component because it puts everything that Tanjiro's done throughout this season to a test, as Ryu and Tanjiro are 2 faces of the same coin in a sense. They both care for their families, although in a very different way. Rui with his adoptive family, and Tanjiro with his only remaining family member, Nezuko. Rui sees this, and then it becomes a battle between brothers in a sense. Tanjiro trying to beat Rui and truly beat him and prevent anyone else from suffering what he's and his family has done. And obviously Rui wants Nezuko and wants to eliminate Tanjiro, as seeing him as a threat. And while that's going on, we do have Inosuke fighting the father. And yeah, Inosuke basically is shown that he is not strong enough. Like, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro are pretty strong compared to the regular Demon Slayer. However, for the most part, they were not really ready for this fight against a lower moon and his group. Although Rui, I mean, this is going into slight theory territory of if he was in true full strength, they wouldn't have really stood a chance. It's still keep note that Inosuke did well on his own before Gyu had to come and save him. When it comes down to Zenitsu and his part,
be quiet! Stop moving around! What am I even looking at?
he actually won his fight alone. Granted, his sleep form is just amazing, as he was able to show off what thunder breathing is, and his move is just pretty sick. But yeah, he would have died too, or at least suffered the fate of the other Demon Slayers with the poison, had it not been for Shinobu. If it wasn't for her, Zenitsu would have been done for. And then we have Tanjiro. Dude used sun breathing, or the Hinokami Kagura to be precise, and it showed just how potent it is, with Nezuko's blood demon art being useful as it can harm demons. So with those two together, they sort of beat Rui. However, unfortunately, they weren't able to truly cut off his head, as he managed to do it himself. So when Gyu comes in, it just instantly vaporizes him, showing just how far our main protagonist really has. And I like this. In the sense, Tanjiro is strong. He was able to nearly beat a lower moon. However, our main protagonist is still not ready for the true battles to come. So that's where this part is. They're getting there. They're getting to lower moon level, but they still need a little more to truly jump that hurdle. And then we have like the epilogue phase of this whole season being the Hashira meeting, which we get to meet the other Hashiras. But the most important thing is that they get the information that Tanjiro has seen Muzan. Nezuko's a unique demon, as she basically refused to attack Sanemi, which, to be fair, I mean, he was making it all so tempting to just be attacked. But yeah, it just progressed. Show Nezuko is able to control her urges. But the more important thing is that we move to the recovery phase, where we truly end the season of Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu needing to not only rest, but also train. This is shown when Kanao, another demon slayer, is there and is also like helping Tanjiro reach the level he needs to go if he's gonna want to save his sister from remaining a demon, which also helps Zenitsu and Inosuke also with eventually getting their training side motivated to push themselves to the next level, which ends it with the three of them going to help Rengoku with the whole Mugen Train arc, which is its own thing aside from Season 1. But Season 1 has one of the interesting highs and lows, as although this may be the epilogue, its own little phase, it's still an important one, as we basically get them that, yeah, they're human, they need to rest and recuperate, but also they need to train. So a little training doesn't hurt. Though, I did wanted to point something out. Hagunesuka, the most funniest character, trying to kill our main character. Who doesn't laugh when they just see this? His pure anger for his sword being snapped in two. As well as, obviously, Inosuke making his swordsmith angry. So, you know, a little funniness to kind of bring back some humor into this series. So, for story, I mean, it is a basic story. I'm not going to say it's, like, the biggest in-depth, like you would say for something like ReZero, One Piece, Overlord, Chainsaw Man to a degree, Dragon Ball to a degree, you know, to name a few. It is still an enjoyable story. As for the animation, the fighting scenes, They're pretty good. Look, I mean, Demon Slayer has always looked good. I don't think I've seen anything bad in terms of season 1. You do have moments, but I feel like they're just kind of funny here and there. But for the most part, their animation is not bad. It is high tier quality, especially when Tanjiro uses Hinokami Kagura for the first time. Combine that with the music, and it is just the damn perfect scene. Hell, Gyu's way of defeating Rui was also pretty fucking badass. Like, you cannot say that the animation's bad for Demon Slayer. For characters, we got a lot of them to go through, so let's get started. Tanjiro Kamado, the main protagonist of Demon Slayer. And honestly, he's pretty much the classic, pure, kind-hearted protagonist. Which isn't a bad thing. I think Tanjiro's is the whole journey of, I must get stronger for those I care about, and I need to defeat this villain. Like, mainly, his main goal has never been, let's kill Muzan, get revenge. Although that is a part of it. The main thing is, he just wants his sister back as a human. That is the main goal that has been pushed throughout this entire season. And it's very interesting, because we see the main character going through so many crazy heights, showing how much potential he has to being the strongest Demon Slayer. Although he's the most classic of a kind person, that doesn't harm it that he is a kind person willing to do everything he can to get stronger for Nezuko's sake and for his friend's sake. His master, the retired Water Hashira, has mentioned that Tanjiro's kindness is a weakness of its own, as he was almost killed quite literally before arriving to where Gyu had sent him and his sister. However, that's the kindness that he brings to those demons that need it. And he definitely made it very peaceful slicing for the spider mother. And he was even sympathetic for Rui. Like, Tanjiro is a kind-hearted character. If you were to say who you could is similar with, would be Deku from My Hero, but even then, Deku has a lot more insecurity issues, while Tanjiro is definitely a lot more of, I'm going to get strong for the sake of my sister. But overall, he's not a bad character. I know a lot of people he's the basic character, but he's still very enjoyable watching him deal with the situations he's thrown in. You'd be surprised I put Nezuko here, but prior to her basically becoming a demon, she was very much the older sister type. Basically there for her siblings. When she's a demon, she's definitely very much protective of Tanjiro. Very okay with others, the obvious one being Sanemi being the bitch that everyone should despise. What makes it interesting on Nezuko's case is just she has some part of her true human self that is preventing her from becoming like the other demons. So that's something to put in note, because otherwise her character development is not exactly 100% there in the terms of seeing a growth. She is growth in the sense that she's protecting humans and fighting off against demons, the rogue demon. Zenitsu, oh boy. He can be annoying. Like, he is the scaredy cat that has to be brave, but that's when he's awake. And trust me, I know people are annoyed of him when he's awake, especially season 1. Granted, there's one scene that will always make me laugh when it comes down to Zenitsu and his complete thing about girls.
Me apologize? You're the ones acting like you came back from hell when you were in paradise! All you did was frolic with girls all day! So why did you come back looking all haggard like that? Apologize and drop dead!
And yeah, I can't help but laugh. Him freaking out is hilarious. It can be annoying. I can see it being annoying, but it is still hilarious. It is. But we do gotta talk about his sleep phase, which is basically what everyone wants. Him being a badass and just slicing people down like they're nothing, which I understand the appeal to it. I mean, who wouldn't want him to just act normal. But you gotta keep in mind, Zenitsu has the arc of being the coward that needs to eventually overcome his fear. Granted, that helps if he's knocked out in his sleep phase, just instantly knocking people out. But still, it is nice seeing Zenitsu and his personality. It does make me laugh. Inosuke is the wild card, the one that kind of just goes crazy on everyone, and yeah, the character that has lived in the mountains, which is impressive because his skills are mostly unique to him. Beast breathing is similar to wind breathing from what I'm aware of, but he developed that technique all on his own, which makes him genuinely crazy interesting, as he's one of the characters that has his own creation of his own breathing. We have Zenitsu, who has thunder breathing learned from his master, Tanjiro, who learned water breathing and the Hinokami Kagura from either his father or from his master respectively, and obviously we have Inosuke, who has beast breathing, his own unique breathing style, which kind of gives off what he is. He's a beast. He will fight anything that threatens him. And it shows the crazy brave one. It has a nice contrast with Zenitsu because they're both so opposite. It just makes sense having the two be allies slash friends slash just arguing with each other. Gyu and Shinobu. The reason I'm having these two together is because they're the main Hashiras for this season. Each season has two specific Hashiras to focus on. Season 1 being Gyu and Shinobu, Season 2 being Rengoku and Tengen, and Season 3 being Muichiro and Mitsuri. So for this one, Gyu, the very loner type, the one who doesn't talk a lot, and the very first one that had basically confronted Tanjiro and Nezuko, because he was on Muzan's trail. Unfortunately, he lost it, and he was Tanjiro's first real demon slayer he had encountered, which, I mean, it's interesting on its own, since if it was someone else, man, events would have gone differently. But his thing is definitely just the mentorship. Although his master does have a lot of that, it's because of him that Tanjiro and Nezuko are even able to be still alive. More Nezuko than Tanjiro, but we also have to keep in mind he was the one that saved those two from Rui and showed off just what a true demon slayer can do, a true Hashira. So that's what makes him interesting. It's just he is just there to show power that Tanjiro needs to reach. And then Shinobu, she is quite literally in a similar thing. After being convinced that Nezuko's not a threat, she basically took care of not only Tanjiro and Nezuko, but also Inosuke and Zenitsu when they all had to recover, as well as kind of push them in the right direction to get stronger. So they're both the mentorships in different ways. Gyu is the embodiment of show, don't tell, of how to get to that point. All the while, Shinobu takes the more motivational path, motivating them to where they need to be. Which is interesting because Tanjiro, with his ridiculous ability to sniff out people's emotions, he was able to detect that, yeah, behind that smile is a true anger that lies within it. Muzan. What can I say but that he is a very, very threatening man? I mean, the thing with Muzan is that he quite literally shows off what his fears are. He fears Tanjiro. He saw the earrings and was reminded of the one man who truly put the fear of God into him. And he still has the scars, by the way, mental scars, because he completely just started losing it once he was on his own and no eyes are on him. But he is also very tricky, since a lot of the Demon Slayer Corps have been trying to track him down since the very beginning of the Demon Slayer Corps. So to have someone like Tanjiro find him is impressive, because all the Hashira were just like, wait, you saw him? What does he look like? Like, they were all just going nuts on it, which kind of tells you that Muzan, although he is a coward, he is not stupid. He knows when he has to go run and hide, because otherwise he'd be a dead man, which, well, it makes sense. So Muzan is the threat of the entire series because he's the main goal of beating. And I mean, it shows it. Like, the dude's not going to make it easy for anyone to reach him, the final boss. Look, I'm only putting these two together because it makes sense, as well as in the Demon Slayer game, it's funny having these two in the same roster, per se, in the same character selection, as they're literally a unit. Yushiro is the protector of Tamayo, and the only reason this section is between these two is because Tamayo and Yushiro are unique. Yushiro is not a normal demon in the sense that he was made by Muzan. No. He was made by Tamayo, which Tamayo had broken free of Muzan's influence and was also a rogue demon like Nezuko. But unlike Nezuko, she did eat people, which obviously has a domino effect on how she's not going to go to heaven when she dies. These two, Tamayo meeting with Nezuko and Tanjiro was important. It basically helped more or less that she knows how to probably save Nezuko, which is important because that is Tanjiro's overall goal for the whole series. And obviously we have Yushiro, jealous as he is of anyone who gets close to his Tamayo. He is also there to somewhat be of an assistance to Tanjiro and Nezuko, although he can be an annoying little simp, if I do say so. Lastly, we'll go with Rui. Although I'll have a section of his whole big fight, this is more about his character. As those who don't know, Season 3 does go over a lot into Muzan's whole backstory and things. I will only say it is fitting that Muzan definitely saw a bit of Rui in himself, as it relates to him. But also the fact that Rui is not necessarily evil in the sense that he just wants to harm people. He just wanted a family. And that is the tragedy of his character. Someone who definitely had a good heart, but ended up kind of getting corrupted by what is Muzan and his demonic blood. So it is the tragedy of that. And the whole thing of Ryu and Tanjiro confronting each other in the sense of having a different ideological battle of family and how to approach and deal with family is what's interesting, since we can see Rui not being a good brother or even a good son, quote unquote, because I mean, he causes suffering for those that he deems family, and it shows. So we definitely see Rui, who wasn't a bad person before becoming a demon, but as obviously time goes on and he has the powers to make a quote unquote family, it sort of got to his head. For characters, there's a lot of them, really. We have the mentors that truly trained Tanjiro and Zenitsu, for example. But for the most part on those two is that's what they are. They're the main trainers for our protagonists before they finally can, like, fight and stuff. We also have other demons, but for the most part, it's the same thing. They're evil, they're strong, they have some unique ability that Tanjiro or whoever's facing them needs to overcome. So there's not really much to go and say about it, but it is still interesting to note how different each demon kind of has its own ability. It doesn't seem like they have the same type of ability. Each one is unique to their own. But overall, characters are still pretty strong. Yeah, as I said on the Tanjiro one, he is still basic. Muzan, the very sneaky, wanting to hide build, and yeah, the Hashiras being like uniquely stereotypical upon first meeting, but eventually showing more or less their colors as we truly get to know them. But overall, characters are still fine. The theme of this is a lot hard to tell, especially when you have a lot of fights between the main one being Lower Moon 5, and then obviously the beginning part where it's basically Tanjiro and his loss. But the best way I can say it is the whole theme is definitely on family, on connections, friendship. And the reason I say this is because Tanjiro's whole thing is protecting Nezuko, getting her to become human. That is the whole overarching arc that starts it off in season 1. And it domino effects to the other seasons too. It's not 100% shown as much, but it's still in effect. But The reason I say this is because it's a lot more prevalent on the main core fight of season 1, the Spider Family demons. That alone shows us, like, we have Tanjiro and Nezuko, the remaining 2 family members that suffered a tragedy because of Muzan, while we have Rui and his so-called family that aren't really a family considering how things usually go. And the fact that Rui views Tanjiro and Nezuko's relationship really shows that he wants something. He wants something genuine, but he doesn't know how to get to that point. It's so far gone that, yeah, he's not going to ever have a good family until somehow can change his ways or is cut off completely. But overall, the theme is definitely family. It's definitely Nezuko and Tanjiro's bond. Not only that, but eventually getting their other family members, per se, their friends, Inosuke and Zenitsu, and then bonding together over dealing with quite literal demons. So, bonds of war, per se. The battles. I think each battle for Demon Slayer has its own unique flair, as shown with each character using a specific breathing style unique to what their personality is, or more like how they function. Because I like how different each fighting is. Tanjiro versus Rui being like one of the biggest. We'll get to that in its section. But Zenitsu versus the Spider Demon, it's unique in the sense that he has only one move, but it's been amplified to such a degree that, yeah, his speed is enough to basically catch this ugly fuck. And then Inosuke and his fighting style, when we meet him, we get to see it in action, and I genuinely think that it is quite the beast of a breathing style, since, well, it is beast breathing. Even though against the father demon he was struggling, it does show that he does have quite the high potential. And then all the water breathing users, it's interesting how many they are and how common that breathing is, considering it seems like the basic one. And yet Gyu comes in and just annihilates Rui with his unique 11th form, showing that even though it's one of the basic breathing styles, it can still be a big threat. Overall, the fights are pretty damn good. Throughout this video, we've gone over a bunch of stuff, but the main stuff being Tanjiro and Rui. Their fight is quite unique, because as much as Tanjiro has grown as a character, as well as showing just how strong he is, how much adaptability he has, it is also a point where he is at a position where alone he would have died. No doubt about it, he would have died. If it wasn't for Nezuko, he would have for sure have met his end right there against Lower Moon 5, which Rui is not weak. For Rui, he's shared his blood, he's created a family. It's more likely he got a little bit nerfed from what his true potential could be, but getting stronger has never been his thing. It's always been about family, which is why those two, Tanjiro and Rui, are quite interesting to have fighting against each other. One who wants to protect the last remaining family, while the other one wants to have a genuine family, one that he had lost a long time ago. It's almost what would happen to Tanjiro if he had lost Nezuko. He would have probably have ended up in such a dark place. So having him fight what essentially could be a version of himself is interesting on its own, but it also is interesting that this fight was what helped them unlock the Hinokami Kagura and use it for the first time, showing just how powerful that, as well as that being sun breathing, really is. Overall, this fight is just epic. As much as Gyu kind of steals it at the end, I think showing Tanjiro's progression that he was very close with Nezuko's help. He was very close to finishing off Rui. Had Rui not had the foresight, yeah, Tanjiro would have been the one to finally beat Lower Moon 5 and show off that he is Hashira level, since you need to beat a bunch of demons and one of the 12 moons. Either one of the upper moons, which is almost godly impossible, or one of the lower moons, which is somewhat possible. But it still shows Tanjiro's still yet to truly be able to stand against a lower moon on his own. Demon Slayer Season 1 is pretty much unique of its own. It is the start of a tragedy, but one must persevere and eventually be able to overcome a lot of the obstacles. Though not there yet to really be one of the strongest Hashiras, which isn't Tanjiro's main goal. His main goal is just to save his sister from being, well, just a demon, to turn back to human. Becoming the strongest Hashira is not necessarily in his goals, but it is needed to become strong enough to protect those he cares about. But overall, I mean, 8 out of 10. It isn't the perfect season or the perfect show, but I can definitely say it is entertaining nonetheless.
Zenitsu, while you're on your journey, please learn to be considerate and respectful of girls, okay?
Yes.